The map of our world is about to change. And I'm not talking about China breaching boundaries. I'm talking about the continent of Africa splitting into two.
Would you believe it if you heard the continent of Africa just split into two? Well, it will not happen really very soon, but the movements of the plates under are faster than what scientists predicted. The tearing apart will look like this, and it's not going to be entirely good news for Africa, its people, and for the whole world. Let's see if there's enough time to prepare. We'll never be the same. You're right, it sounds frightening. Even the thought of the split is scary enough. Africa, often referred to as the cradle of humanity. Our earliest human ancestors were born there, remember? But Africa is undergoing a dramatic geological transformation that could eventually reshape the continent as we know it. Beneath the surface, the Earth's crust is gradually splitting, creating what scientists call a rift, essentially a giant crack in the landscape. This split is driven by the movement of two major tectonic plates, the Somali Plate and the Nubian Plate. While this process unfolds over millions of years, the signs of Africa's eventual division are already visible today. What's the science behind all these? Tectonic plates are massive slabs of Earth's lithosphere that constantly shift, albeit at an incredibly slow rate. The African continent sits atop two primary plates, the Nubian Plate, which holds most of Africa, and the Somali Plate, which includes the eastern region of the continent. These two plates are gradually drifting apart due to forces deep within the Earth's mantle. The movement is slow, about a few millimeters to a couple of centimeters per year. But over millions of years, this shift will lead to a completely new ocean forming between them. Somali Tectonic Plate. The Earth's crust isn't one solid shell. It's actually broken into huge pieces called tectonic plates. These plates are constantly moving, sometimes colliding, pulling apart, or sliding past each other. One of these plates is the Somali Plate, which plays a crucial role in shaping the geography of East Africa. But what exactly is the Somali Plate, and what science explains its movement? The Somali Plate is one of the Earth's many tectonic plates, sitting mostly under East Africa and the Western Indian Ocean. It stretches from the East African Rift Valley through Somalia, Kenya and Tanzania, and into the Indian Ocean. It is bordered by several other plates, including the African Plate, sometimes referred to as the Nubian Plate, the Indian Plate, and the Arabian Plate. Tectonic plates move due to forces in the Earth's mantle. The heat from the Earth's core causes molten rock, magma, to circulate in what's called convection currents. These currents push and pull on the plates above, making them shift over millions of years. The Somali Plate is particularly interesting because it is in the process of splitting away from the African Plate. This process is happening along the East African Rift System, one of the most geologically active areas in the world. Scientists believe that in millions of years, this rift could eventually create a new ocean, separating part of East Africa from the rest of the continent. So how fast are we talking about here? It's not moving at a speed you would notice in a single lifetime. The Somali Plate is drifting away from the African Plate at a rate of about 6 millimeters to 7 millimeters per year, which is roughly the same speed your fingernails grow. While that may seem slow, over millions of years it adds up to major geological changes. Because of this ongoing movement, the East African Rift experiences earthquakes and volcanic activity. Some of Africa's most famous volcanoes, like Mount Kilimanjaro and Mount Nyiragongo, exist because of this tectonic activity. The Rift Valley itself is also a visible sign of how the land is slowly pulling apart. In the distant future, possibly tens of millions of years from now, this process could lead to a new ocean forming, separating parts of Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania, and Somalia from the rest of Africa. If this happens, it would be a major shift in the geography of the continent. Nubian Tectonic Plate. One other massive plate is the Nubian Tectonic Plate, a significant part of the African Plate. The Nubian Tectonic Plate, often considered the primary part of the larger African Plate, covers most of the African continent to the west of the East African Rift. It is sometimes referred to as the Nubian Plate, to distinguish it from its counterpart, the Somali Plate, which is gradually splitting away from it. Again, the division between these two plates runs along the East African Rift, one of the most significant active rift zones in the world today. This plate is primarily continental, meaning it consists mostly of land rather than oceanic crust. It extends from North Africa down through Central and Western Africa, covering countries like Algeria, Libya, Sudan, Nigeria, and parts of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. The Nubian Plate is bordered by the Eurasian Plate to the north, the Arabian Plate to the northeast, the Somali Plate to the east, and the South American and Antarctic Plates to the west and south, respectively. The Nubian Plate is shifting at an estimated rate of about 2.5 centimeters per year, which might seem insignificant, but over millions of years, this gradual motion leads to dramatic geological changes. The interaction of the Nubian Plate with other plates results in various geological activities, such as earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and the formation of rift valleys. Over millions of years, this could lead to the formation of a new ocean as the land continues to separate. The shifting boundaries of the Nubian Plate contribute to seismic activity in various regions, especially along the East African Rift. Countries like Tanzania, Kenya, and Ethiopia experience occasional tremors due to the slow but steady movement of the plate. The stretching and thinning of the crust along the rift zone allow magma to rise, leading to the formation of volcanoes. Notable examples include Mount Nyiragongo in the Democratic Republic of the Congo and Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania. Geologists believe that in about 50 million years, the Somali Plate will completely break away from the Nubian Plate, creating a new ocean basin. This means the Horn of Africa, including parts of Ethiopia, Somalia, and Kenya, could become a separate landmass, much like Madagascar. The slow movement of the Nubian Plate contributes to the uplift and shaping of mountain ranges, like the Ethiopian highlands, and the formation of rift valleys, which play a crucial role in biodiversity and ecosystems. Understanding the Nubian Plate is not just a matter of geological curiosity. It has real-world implications. For instance, knowing how and where the plate moves helps scientists predict potential earthquake zones, which is crucial for disaster preparedness. It also sheds light on the future of Africa's geography and the planet's overall tectonic behavior. Furthermore, studying the East African Rift can provide insights into how continents break apart, which has happened multiple times in Earth's history, leading to the formation of new oceans and land masses. The Rift Valley and its role in our world. The Rift Valley is one of the most fascinating geological features on Earth, stretching over 6,000 kilometers from Lebanon in the Middle East all the way down to Mozambique in southeastern Africa. Formed by the gradual shifting of tectonic plates, this vast system of rifts is a hotspot for geological activity, diverse ecosystems, and rich human history. But what exactly makes the Rift Valley so important? Scientists continue to study the valley's geological activity, as its shifting plates may one day lead to the formation of a new ocean in Africa. The Rift Valley was formed millions of years ago due to the movement of the Earth's tectonic plates. The process is still ongoing, which is why the region experiences frequent earthquakes and volcanic activity. The valley itself is made up of several rift systems, including the East African Rift, which is perhaps the most well-known. This geological activity has given rise to some of the most breathtaking landscapes, from deep valleys and towering volcanoes to massive lakes like Lake Victoria and Lake Tanganyika. Thanks to its unique geography and climate, the Rift Valley is home to a stunning variety of wildlife. Some of Africa's most famous national parks, such as the Serengeti and Ngorongoro Crater, lie within this region. These parks are teeming with animals like lions, elephants, zebras, and rhinos, making the Rift Valley a prime destination for wildlife enthusiasts and conservationists. Additionally, the numerous lakes within the valley provide habitats for countless bird species, including the famous flamingos of Lake Nakuru. One of the Rift Valley's most remarkable contributions to history is its role in human evolution. Some of the oldest fossilized remains of early humans have been found in this region, particularly in Ethiopia and Kenya. Sites like Olduvai Gorge have provided invaluable evidence about how our ancestors lived millions of years ago, offering clues about the evolution of bipedalism, tool-making, and early social structures. It's no wonder the Rift Valley is often referred to as the cradle of humankind. The Rift Valley is not just about landscapes and fossils, it also plays a vital role in supporting millions of people. Its fertile volcanic soil makes it an important agricultural zone, particularly for crops like coffee, tea, and maize. Many communities rely on farming and fishing in the valley's lakes as their primary sources of income. Additionally, the valley attracts tourists from all over the world, boosting local economies through wildlife safaris, hiking, and cultural experiences. Despite its many wonders, the Rift Valley faces several challenges. Climate change threatens its delicate ecosystems, affecting both wildlife and local livelihoods. Deforestation, pollution, and human encroachment are also growing concerns. However, conservation efforts and sustainable development projects are helping to protect this precious region for future generations. The Rift Valley is more than just a geographical wonder. It is a living, breathing part of our planet's history, present and future. Whether through its contribution to our understanding of human origins, its breathtaking landscapes, or its vital role in sustaining life, this remarkable valley continues to shape the world in countless ways. As we move forward, protecting and preserving the Rift Valley will be key to ensuring that its beauty and importance endure for generations to come. Sure thing is, the splitting is definitely going to happen, but how soon will it be? And should we start worrying? Africa is literally tearing itself apart, slowly but surely. Scientists have been observing a massive geological rift forming in East Africa, and many believe that, over millions of years, it could eventually split the continent into two. But how long will this take? What's causing it? And what do experts predict for the future? Let's dive into the fascinating science behind Africa's potential split. How long will it take? Don't expect Africa to split in your lifetime, or even in many, many lifetimes. Scientists estimate that the full separation will take around 5 to 10 million years. However, we are already seeing early signs of this process. In 2018, a massive crack suddenly appeared in Kenya's Great Rift Valley, measuring several kilometers long and up to 15 meters deep in some places. While this dramatic event was partially triggered by heavy rainfall eroding loose soil, it's still a sign of the ongoing tectonic activity beneath the region. If Africa does eventually split, what will the world look like? Geologists predict that the Somali plate will continue moving eastward, eventually creating a new ocean between itself and the rest of Africa. This means that countries like Somalia, Kenya, Tanzania, and parts of Ethiopia may one day become an island continent, much like Madagascar. Meanwhile, the remaining African landmass will be reshaped, with new coastlines forming along the break. While the basic science of rifting is well understood, there are still uncertainties about how the process will unfold. Some scientists believe that the rift could stall or take a different path, depending on future geological forces. Others argue that human activities, such as large-scale construction and resource extraction, might influence how quickly or slowly the split occurs. Additionally, natural disasters like earthquakes and volcanic eruptions will continue to shape the landscape, potentially accelerating the process in some areas. The presence of active volcanoes along the rift, such as Erta Ale in Ethiopia and Oldonyo Lengai in Tanzania, shows that magma is already at work beneath the surface, weakening the crust even further. Africa's split is not a question of if, but when. However, the process is incredibly slow by human standards, so while we may witness small changes in our lifetime, the full separation will take millions of years. The East African Rift serves as a reminder of Earth's ever-changing nature and how powerful geological forces shape the world around us. Whether or not we'll still be around to see a new ocean form remains to be seen, but one thing's for sure: Africa's geological transformation is a fascinating glimpse into our planet's future. Meanwhile, there's another belief that Africa will not only break into two, but possibly into small little islands. Experts predict that in 1 to 5 million years, the Indian Ocean may flood the rift, forming a new ocean and potentially turning parts of Africa into islands. What happens when Africa turns into a continent of small islands? Like the rest of the continents of this planet, Africa is a vast and diverse continent, home to over 1 billion people, rich ecosystems, and some of the world's most ancient cultures. But imagine if, instead of being one massive land mass, Africa became a collection of small islands scattered across the ocean. How would such a dramatic transformation impact the environment, society, and the world at large? Let's analyze this hypothetical scenario. Geological and environmental impact. The shift from a massive continent to a series of islands would likely be triggered by catastrophic geological changes, such as extreme tectonic activity, rising sea levels, or a massive planetary event. The African Rift Valley, which is already slowly pulling apart due to plate tectonics, would experience an unprecedented acceleration in this scenario, leading to the rapid separation of land masses. This geological upheaval could be accompanied by intense volcanic activity, earthquakes, and tsunamis, reshaping Africa's geography in dramatic and unpredictable ways. Entire mountain ranges could collapse or shift, while new volcanic islands might emerge from the ocean, adding to the ever-changing landscape. With Africa fragmented into islands, many of its most iconic landscapes, such as the vast Sahara Desert, the lush Congo rainforest, and the sweeping Serengeti Plains, would cease to exist in their current form. Rising sea levels would inundate low-lying regions, submerging vast portions of coastal and inland environments. The once contiguous rainforests of Central Africa might be broken into isolated patches, leading to a loss of interconnected ecosystems crucial for sustaining diverse wildlife populations. The Serengeti, famous for its vast migrations of wildebeests and zebras, would be disrupted as traditional migratory routes disappear, potentially pushing some species toward extinction. Africa's rich biodiversity, which includes some of the world's most unique and endangered species, would face unprecedented challenges. Animals that rely on large, open habitats, such as elephants, lions, and cheetahs, might struggle to survive on smaller land masses, while others could adapt to new island ecosystems. Some species, like primates, reptiles, and birds, might thrive in isolated environments, evolving into new, distinct subspecies over time. However, habitat loss, shifting climates, and increased human pressures on limited land could drive many species to extinction. Additionally, ocean currents would play a crucial role in shaping these new island ecosystems. Nutrient flows and temperature changes could affect marine life, leading to the loss of coral reefs and fisheries that many coastal communities depend on. Some islands might become ecological havens, while others could be barren and inhospitable due to harsh environmental conditions. The transformation of Africa into a series of islands would mark one of the most dramatic geological and environmental shifts in Earth's history, redefining not just the continent's landscapes, but also the way life adapts and survives in this new world. Climate and weather changes. Islands experience different weather patterns compared to large landmasses, and a fragmented Africa would undergo significant climatic shifts. With large continental landmasses broken into smaller islands, ocean currents and wind patterns would have a greater influence, creating a more varied climate across the region. Some islands would transform into lush tropical paradises, experiencing increased rainfall and biodiversity, while others could be vulnerable to extreme weather events like hurricanes, cyclones, and monsoons due to their exposed positions. The Sahara, one of the world's largest hot deserts might undergo a dramatic transformation. With increased oceanic influence, parts of the desert could see higher humidity levels and more frequent rainfall, leading to the growth of vegetation in previously arid areas. However, other islands might still experience persistent dryness, particularly those far from oceanic moisture sources. Additionally, the disruption of the continent could alter major wind patterns, possibly leading to the weakening or even redirection of desert-expanding forces, such as the harmattan winds. Coastal erosion would become an even greater threat as island nations face the continuous impact of rising sea levels and more intense storms. Warmer ocean temperatures could fuel stronger tropical storms, leading to increased flooding and damage to coastal infrastructure. Coral reefs, which play a crucial role in protecting shorelines, might struggle to adapt to shifting environmental conditions, putting marine ecosystems and local economies at risk. The changing climate would create both opportunities and challenges, reshaping Africa's environment, agriculture, and human settlements in ways that would demand adaptation and resilience. There are other massive changes that will take place once different islands begin to take over. How are Africans and residents going to manage such variation? Social and economic consequences. The people of Africa would experience an unprecedented transformation, facing challenges that would reshape their societies, economies, and ways of life. Inland communities, once far from the ocean, would be forced to migrate to higher ground or relocate entirely to newly formed islands. This mass displacement would create one of the largest humanitarian crises in history, with millions of people seeking new homes, infrastructure, and sources of livelihood. Governments and international organizations would struggle to provide food, water, and medical aid to those affected, while conflicts over land, resources, and political power could arise as groups compete for limited space and access to vital necessities. Cultural and ethnic identities, deeply rooted in Africa's diverse landscapes and historical regions, would be forced to evolve. Many groups would be separated from their ancestral lands, breaking centuries-old ties to specific territories. Languages, traditions, and social structures could shift as communities either integrate with new neighbors or isolate themselves to preserve their heritage. Some cultures might adapt to island life by reviving maritime traditions, fostering a new era of seafaring societies that depend on fishing, trade, and ocean-based industries. Others might struggle to maintain their historical ways of life in the face of drastic environmental and geopolitical changes. Economically, the division of Africa into islands would create both immense challenges and new opportunities. The continent, known for its wealth of natural resources, including minerals, oil, and agricultural products, would face major disruptions in extraction and distribution. Mining operations in inland regions might become unviable as transportation networks collapse and once thriving industrial hubs become inaccessible. Farming communities, especially those reliant on large-scale agriculture, would have to adapt to smaller plots of land, potentially leading to food shortages and increased reliance on imports. Infrastructure such as railways and highways, which currently connect key economic centers, would be rendered useless, forcing nations to invest heavily in maritime transport and new port cities. Many island nations might struggle with self-sufficiency, depending heavily on international aid and trade partnerships to sustain their economies. However, some newly formed islands could emerge as strategic trade hubs, leveraging their positions along key shipping routes to attract global investment. Coastal cities that survive the transformation could evolve into major economic centers, capitalizing on tourism, fisheries, and renewable energy sources such as wind and tidal power. Tourism could become one of the defining industries of this new Africa, as travelers flock to explore its transformed landscapes. Pristine beaches, coral reefs, and unique island ecosystems could attract visitors from around the world, fueling a booming hospitality industry. Formerly landlocked nations might suddenly find themselves with coastal access, offering new economic prospects. However, over-reliance on tourism could also lead to environmental degradation and economic instability, especially if rising sea levels and extreme weather events continue to threaten island infrastructures. Overall, the fragmentation of Africa into islands would bring about a dramatic reorganization of human civilization on the continent. While some regions might struggle with displacement, resource scarcity, and economic hardships, others could seize new opportunities to thrive in an altered world. Adaptability, resilience, and innovation would determine the success of these new island nations as they navigate a future unlike anything seen before in human history. Political and global influence. A fractured Africa would drastically reshape its political landscape, as the breakup of the continent would lead to the emergence of many new nations, each with its own government, policies, and challenges. Some of these new island nations might seek to form regional alliances to ensure economic stability, security, and resource sharing, while others could become isolated, struggling to maintain governance and control over their territories. Political tensions could arise as ethnic and cultural groups, once unified within larger nations, find themselves divided by newly formed water barriers. These divisions could lead to disputes over land, sovereignty, and maritime borders, potentially sparking conflicts or prompting diplomatic negotiations to establish clear territorial boundaries. International relations would also undergo a dramatic shift as countries around the world re-evaluate their partnerships with African nations based on new geographic and economic realities. Major powers that once relied on Africa for resources and trade might need to renegotiate agreements with multiple smaller nations instead of dealing with larger, more centralized governments. Some African islands might become key players in global shipping routes, leveraging their strategic locations for economic and political advantage. Others might become dependent on foreign aid and investment, leading to increased influence from outside powers that seek to establish military or economic footholds in the region. On a global scale, Africa plays a crucial role in international trade, agriculture, and geopolitics, and its fragmentation could weaken its collective influence. The African Union, which currently serves as a platform for continental cooperation, might struggle to maintain its relevance in a world where Africa is no longer a single landmass, but a collection of dispersed island nations. With less political cohesion, African nations might find it more difficult to advocate for shared interests on the global stage, making them more vulnerable to economic exploitation and political manipulation by larger, more unified world powers. However, this transformation could also present new opportunities. While some island nations might struggle with self-sufficiency, others could develop innovative strategies for economic growth by focusing on tourism, technology, or maritime industries. Smaller, more agile governments might be able to respond more quickly to economic and environmental challenges, fostering unique approaches to sustainability and development. The rise of independent island states could lead to fresh diplomatic alliances, new trade networks, and the potential for stronger regional cooperation among nations with shared interests. Ultimately, the political and global influence of Africa in its new form would depend on how effectively its nations adapt to the challenges of fragmentation. While unity might be harder to achieve, resilience, diplomacy, and strategic planning could allow Africa's island nations to maintain a significant presence in world affairs, shaping a future where they are not just surviving, but thriving in their transformed environment. Finally, how about the firm and solid traditions of its people? Are lives going to change for the better or for worse? Cultural and lifestyle changes. Culture in Africa is deeply tied to land, heritage, and long-standing traditions, but a transition to island life would bring profound changes in ways of living, working, and interacting. Many communities that once relied on vast landscapes for agriculture, trade, and mobility would need to adapt to a world where water dominates daily life. Coastal fishing would become a primary industry as people turn to the sea for sustenance and economic stability. Traditional farming, once dependent on large expanses of land, would shift toward more sustainable island-based techniques like hydroponics, vertical farming, and aquaponics to maximize food production in limited spaces. Livestock farming might become less viable, leading to dietary changes and a greater emphasis on seafood, marine plants, and locally grown produce. The physical separation of communities by water would make boats, ferries, and even underwater or floating transport systems essential for travel and trade. People who once traveled by road or rail would have to navigate new maritime routes, fostering a culture of seafaring and navigation. This shift could revive and expand ancient African maritime traditions, bringing back shipbuilding techniques and fishing practices that were once central to many coastal cultures. At the same time, cultural exchange could flourish in ways never seen before. As people move between islands for trade, work, and family connections, diverse communities would interact more frequently, leading to new, blended identities. Languages, dialects, and traditions might merge, creating unique cultural fusions that redefine African heritage. Cuisine, already diverse across the continent, could evolve with an even stronger mix of island flavors, incorporating more seafood, tropical fruits, and innovative cooking techniques. Music, art, and storytelling, core elements of African culture, would also undergo transformation. New musical styles might emerge, influenced by the rhythms of the ocean and the cross-cultural interactions between islands. Dance and performance arts could reflect the maritime way of life, celebrating the resilience and adaptability of island communities. Oral storytelling, already a rich tradition in Africa, might evolve into new forms, incorporating themes of survival, migration, and the ever-changing relationship between people and nature. Religious and spiritual practices, many of which are tied to the land, could also adapt to the new geography. Sacred sites that were once central to certain belief systems might be lost or relocated, prompting communities to reinterpret their spiritual connections. Island life might lead to a stronger emphasis on water-based rituals, marine deities, and ancestral connections to the ocean, much like many island cultures around the world. While the fragmentation of Africa would bring challenges, it could also foster a renaissance of innovation and cultural evolution. The resilience and creativity of African communities would shape a new way of life, blending old traditions with new realities to create a vibrant, interconnected island culture unlike anything seen before. A world where Africa becomes a continent of small islands would be drastically different from the one we know today. The environmental shifts would be profound, social structures would be redefined, and the global balance of power would change. While there would be immense challenges, humans are adaptable. With innovation and resilience, these new African islands could find ways to thrive in their transformed world. Ultimately, this scenario reminds us of the importance of sustainability and preparedness. While Africa isn't about to break apart anytime soon, climate change and natural disasters are already reshaping our world. By learning to adapt now, we can better prepare for whatever the future holds. How has this news impacted you? Leave your comments below and subscribe to the channel for more content like this.